no big deal. I thought everybody can do it, so I went and did that. Again, found a few people that thought maybe that's not a good idea if you have type 1 diabetes, but nobody had ever told me I couldn't do something because of it before, so I wasn't going to let it start then. Fast forward a couple of years and I got a job, but it wasn't quite working with the Dolphins. I was selling fish at first, so I got to sell fish to the guests, and they got to feed the Dolphins and the sea lions. And then I moved over to our bird department, which not only has penguins, but it also has sea lions, I'm sorry, not sea lions, parrots, ducks, flamingos, all the birds in the park. And you did have to be scuba certified to work with the penguins, because we had to go in and clean the exhibit and that kind of thing. Nothing like 40-degree water. And I went to the doctor, because everybody has to go to see this one doctor for the company, and he has to certify you to be okay to die for the company. Well, I went to that doctor, and just like any other doctor's appointment, I didn't think too much of it, because as diabetics, we see doctors all the time. So I went in and sat down and didn't have any nervousness about it or anything, and then he walked in the room and opened up my folder and took one look at it and looked back at me and said, "You can't dive." And this was the first time in my life that somebody had told me that I couldn't do something because I had diabetes. And it didn't go over well. So I went home that day and I researched on the internet and finally found a doctor in Florida that helped diabetics dive safely. And I got all his information and I went back to that doctor and I showed him and I did everything, and he didn't like it, but he didn't have any reason not to let me dive. So I actually was able to move forward from there. I did move on to the animal training department a year or so later, and it was so much fun. I've worked with killer whales, sea lions, walruses, otters, birds, all kinds of things. But really hard when you think about 4 shots a day. You have 4 shots a day. Some days I go in at 7 a.m. Some days I go in at noon. Some days I'm off at midnight. There are even fabulous occasions where I get to go in the middle of the night. Luckily, that's usually for a birth or something like that, which is a whole lot of fun. But again, you don't know how long you're going to be there, or what your day is going to entail, or when you're going to eat. This next week I'll have 6 to 7 shows a day. Some days I have 2. So again, my schedule varies very much from a day-to-day experience. And taking shots, that makes it very hard. You don't know exactly when your next meal is going to be. And you don't know how long you're going to have to eat that lunch. There were some days that I had 30 minutes to run in, take off my wetsuit. If you've had a wetsuit on, you know that's not easy. Take my shot, take my blood sugar, eat, get back in the wetsuit. Again, a wet wetsuit, not easy to get on. And be ready for the next show in 30 minutes. And all my counterparts, they could just stay in their wetsuit. It wasn't a big deal for them. So, there were difficult things about being on injections and being a dolphin trainer. Not enough to not do it, but it made it difficult. I had several doctors throughout my life that said, you should really go on a pump. And I was adamant about not going on a pump. I was comfortable with my 4 shots a day. Yes, it was hard, but I was comfortable. And I had this great built-in excuse, because every doctor that would suggest it, I would say, well, I'd love to, but you know what? There's some days where I'm in a wetsuit for 8 hours and I can't be connected to a pump or disconnect from a pump for that long. I can't have the tubing around because the animals can catch on it, or I can catch it on just about anything. So I can't go on a pump, and I had that built-in excuse that worked really nicely for a really long time. And then a few years after that, I went to a new doctor. I went to a maternal fetal specialist because I had decided that I wanted to start a family with my husband, and he was a great doctor. And one of the first things he said to me is, "What kind of pump are you on?" And I said, "Well, I'm not on a pump. My job, I can't really do it. The tubing doesn't work, and I'm wet all the time. But it's, I thought about it, but I can't do it." And he looked back at me and he goes, "Well, I think I have an idea." And again, I'm not. "Sure you do. It won't work." "But okay, let me hear it." And he told me about the Omnipod. And he said, it's completely waterproof. And it'll stay on, no big deal. And I thought, well, of course it stays on for the normal person that goes swims a few laps and then gets dry and no big deal. But I'm in a wetsuit for 8 hours a day and I'm getting pushed in the pool with dolphins and beluga whales. Just try it. Okay, I'll try it. So the next day, one of the reps came over and gave me the little dummy pod and put it on me, and I thought, I'm gonna go to work and I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this thing fall off. So I got in that morning and I put on the wetsuit and I did everything I could think of. I dove to the bottom of our 25-foot pool. I went scuba diving. What else did I do? I jumped out of a 10-foot window and dove into the pool. I had the dolphins drag me across the pool. I had the beluga whales push me across the pool. I did everything that I could think of to make this thing fall off. And at the end of the day, I pulled off my wetsuit 8 hours later, and that thing was still on. And I thought, well, I have a feeling I'm going to be stuck with this. So I went back to the doctor and thought, okay, I'll go ahead and try it. And then, you know, after I have a successful pregnancy and a healthy little boy, then I'll just go back to my shots. And about a week later, I realized that my life had completely changed and that there would be no way in the world that I would ever want to go back to shots. It was the most amazing thing that suddenly a little part of my life came back to me because there wasn't all the planning, as much planning. There was no hesitation, like when I had 30 minutes to go to lunch, I could just go like everybody else. Yeah, I still had to check my blood sugar, but I didn't have to take the shots and worry about when my next meal was going to be and all that stuff. And there's just a little bit of freedom. And then about 9 months after that, I had a beautiful little boy. And again, I thought, you know what? I have been the healthiest in the last 10 months than I have been in my whole entire life. My A1C dropped a full point in probably a month. And I suddenly had all this energy and all this excitement about my health and my life. Fast forward, I've gotten to meet and speak to so many great people. I've learned so much, not only about myself, but other people and their stories as well. Gotten to talk to so many kids and getting to see the light in their face when they see the dolphins. I mean, I see them on a daily basis and they make me smile. But to see the reaction that they have and to know that they can do anything. Despite having diabetes, you can do anything. And I've taken it on myself to make sure that I'm also educating the kids and educating the people that I come in contact with so they don't have those old-fashioned ideas of what diabetes is. Because a lot of people still do those. Have those ideas of, oh, they could fall over at any minute. Or, you know, you never know when they're just going to pass out. And it's so much different now. I have the continuous glucose monitor, and I know what my blood sugar is at any minute. I'm addicted to the little remote to see what my blood sugar is. And whereas blood sugars before were always one of those things where I have to check my blood sugar. So there's so many advances in the years that I know that I'm living a healthier life. I think that I'm healthier than a lot of my friends that don't have diabetes because I'm so in tune with my health overall. But mostly the diabetes is just a little bit smaller. And I look at it and I know that I can accomplish anything. And I look at my 3-year-old and I know that I'm going to have a long life watching him grow up too. And those 2 aunts that I talked about earlier, that unfortunately they've both passed away in about the last 10 years from complications of diabetes. But I know that if they would have had all the technology that we have today when they were growing up, that they would have lived a lot longer life. And I know that I'm going to live a longer life because of the great advancements that have been given to me. Thank you very much. Please remind your children and yourselves to reach for your dreams. It doesn't matter what it is in your life, diabetes or anything else, that you can accomplish your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robyn.